helping military, veterans, and first responders thrive from the bedroom to the boardroom. I am one of your hosts, Daniel Faust. You are watching this live on Facebook, YouTube, and the Easy Way wall. We're glad for you to go over and join. This is always a conversation, always a dialogue, never a monologue. Our topic this week is freedom, and we've been focusing on freedom the entire month, but specifically in the boardroom. And this week's topic is about flanking because guess what? A Snickers wasn't enough. God, you think 2020 would just need a Snickers and everything would be going to be fine, but guess what happened? COVID is back with more power. It's insane, man. We kind of went back and we kind of went to the beaches and went to stuff. We only did it like a 30, 60%, depending on your state purview, and boom, it exploded. And now states are retreating like crazy. So we all need to make a battle plan to go over and to deal as we are phasing back. And we want to help you with this because we've been through a lot of scenarios ourselves pre-COVID. And we thought, like, since we've already done so many scenarios of flanking in our lives, we wanted to go and help you. So, for example, we've been through 70 jobs and 36 moves and almost homeless a few times. And we've had to flank to go over and to deal with life. Pivots, we kind of did that pre-COVID in a little bit, and we kind of did that. But now it's probably going to stay. So we wanted to go over and share on how we flanked and hope that you can take a tactic or two, or maybe even just a thought process and apply it to your mental quiver for success. So are you ready to go over and to march out and make that flank? Well, if you are or not, we at least whenever you listen to this either live or you're watching this in replay, either on social media or on Podopolo, where you can gamify your podcast, this hopefully goes over and empowers you to go over and to make that flank in the boardroom. All right. So flank tactic number one income supports, the second defends. What typically we've done as Americans is we've gone over, we went from a one income family to a two income family. And when something happens, 2001 with 9/11, 2008 with the economy crash, and now we have the COVID, we tend to go over and struggle a little bit or even get into total chaos because we live on the two income family. And then we go over and then one income goes away or both incomes go away. And basically things go over and collapse. So we decided a long time ago, even before we started a business, that one income supports and the second one goes over and defends. And what this means is that whatever income you go and bring in, as much as possible, it supports the major things that you need to go over and do in life. And if another spouse goes to work for some reason and whatnot, either because they want to, have to, or whatever it is, that second income needs to defend. Because this is what happens. It doesn't matter if it's the guy that goes to work or the girl, typically, unless you're making lots and lots of money, that second income gets eaten up a lot by childcare. So pre-COVID, a lot of money was getting eaten up. So here's for example. So my wife at one time was making $23 an hour. I was making about 15 at the time. I'm the one absorbing childcare. I'm spending $300 to $500 a week in childcare. Then on the second car, then the gas and everything else. When I did the mathematics, I'm bringing home $2 to $5 an hour. I should have just went over and did virtual work back then. So when I almost got into an accident because of the lack of sleep and the craziness of the schedule, and this was 2 times in like 2 days, I went over and gave up the job and then I came home. So I became the stay-at-home dad for about a couple of months. My wife's internship ended. She went from $23 to $13 an hour, and then I got activated on military orders, and my pay was about $35 an hour. So again, we went back to one income supports and the second one defends. So my wife came home and then took over those operations. So she did a lot of home ops. She brought in some revenue by saving things and whatnot. But basically, we always follow this model: one income supports and the second one defends. So this model might be helpful for you because we're having to flank and things are changing drastically. So, and if you guys got any comments, we'd love to go and hear them. So I'm going to continually go back to the comments to see if you guys got any COVID flank tactics. It looks like Chris says, here. Chris made it. Awesome. That's fantastic. All right. So let's go jump into our next tactic. If you have any tactics to add to the dialogue, we love to go in here. We see the comments going live. If it's the first time you're going live, go to StreamYard and make sure you authenticate. All right. COVID flank tactic number 2, Does your state have an ESA? What is an ESA? Not every state has this, but Arizona has this. So if you're my Arizona listeners, you might want to go take a listen. Go Google the Arizona DES, which is the Department of Education Services. Each state lists it differently. Department of Education Services, whatever it is, go over and look for that. Your state might have an ESA, which is an education savings account. What that is your tax dollars can be accessible to you to go over and educate your kids. So COVID kicks in, they're doing remote teaching, it's really difficult and things of that nature. You can go to your state and see if they have an education savings account. You get then those taxes through a government card, and now you have that money. So that it's 8,000 to 14,000 depending on the state. So you get that money back, and now you can have your kids go and be supported, because maybe your school is not strong enough, but maybe you hire an au pair to do the homeschooling, or you go over and go through a private school like Liberty University or K-12 or whatever that is, and now you have the revenue to go and apply for that. So that supplies you. It can be food, it can be books, it can be resources, it can be things online. Each state is different. You're going to have to go to your state website and see if they have an education savings account, or maybe a different way that provides education. Because again, why not equip yourself with that revenue so then you can equip yourself back to supporting and defending the income that you go over and need. And that income can then supplement, because if you don't have the food resources and everything else, you can even charge those things. Each state's different. You want to go to their website and go and look at the rules, but I'd highly recommend it, because if your state has this and you're like, their school is doing bad or homeschooling is really difficult, maybe this ESA program, if your state has it, can go over and equip you with more revenue and also getting your kids to thriving. And why does this apply to the boardroom? So you can focus back on the job. So each of these flanks might not be directly connected to the boardroom, but it gets you mentally back to the boardroom. All right, COVID flank tactic number 3, remote work. So it might be some time to go over and say the boardroom you worked in might need to go over and change over to remote work. And a lot of things are going to change that. Instacart, there's hundreds of companies. If you go look back at a post I did a couple of days ago, and you can see all the different companies that are pivoting and looking for tens of thousands of workers. Retails and restaurants are really suffering, but a lot of remote work or contactless delivery of things of that nature can be really huge. Amazon Flex, that's a version of remote work. There's, it's not technically in a building in a boardroom, but you can do that remote work. And sometimes you can earn $150, $200, $250 a day. I did Postmates. I'd average, because I didn't do it full time, I'd average between, 40 to like 100 with tips a day on as a side hustle when I was doing this. And you can go over and look at other apps like TaskRabbit, or go look at 99 Designs if you're a graphic designer. There's several different websites that go over and do remote work. If you need some context, go over and send me a direct message, and I can go over and look at some of my old remote work I went over and did. eDegree Advisor, that's remote work. That ranges between $9 to $20 an hour. And also a great resource for remote work is actually Kimber. Kimber Lee, which should be tagged in my post. She has a group called VertForce. So especially this audience of military, veteran, first responders, she has a huge group that's mil spouses and veteran specific that are looking for remote work. She has a powerful group of 14,000 people, and she has a lot of resources from remote work that is short-term, long-term, full-time, part-time. There's even a job that you go over and help blind people see. It's called ARIA, ARIA, and she has direct connections with that. So definitely connect with her or resources of remote work, so then you can get focused back in the boardroom. It might not be the boardroom that you started out with, but at least it's a boardroom that's flexible to go deal with this COVID, and if our kids all come back home. All right, COVID flank tactic number 4, start a small biz. You're probably thinking I'm nuts. Listen to me out. Most of the time, as military veterans, first responders, especially if you're not entrepreneurial, the thing is you tend to go to the 9 to 5. And the thing is that if you start a small biz, even if you're still working in the boardroom, there's a lot of things you can go over and write off to maximize your funds for the pivots and flanks that we have to go over and make. You can start with Melaleuca for as low as $19. You can start with Legal Shield, all those types of things. And then you can then utilize for the tax benefits to go over and to write off. So if you're stuck at home now and you're in COVID and you have a small biz, you can write off that laptop that you bought. You can write off the electricity. You can write off your phone and all these different types of things for a percentage or not. Obviously, get with your CPA. Brandon Cox, great shout out to go over and connect with. Now that the tax season is over, Brandon Cox should be available, or your local vetpreneur CPA. Alicia Dara is a great resource too. She's out of Fountain Hills. So if you connect with one of those two or other resources in the vetpreneur tribe or another veteran military first responder group, they can go help you and to teach you how to get those write-offs, because that's key, because we need the revenue to stay from whatever boardroom we're getting it from, virtual, small business, or whatever, to go over and to have us thrive. So I definitely go recommend starting a small biz. And especially if you do it from the direct sales side, you don't have to go through all that paperwork, LLC, and all that other jazz. They cover most of the gamut for you, and you can write it off as a 1099. And if you ever need to take that 1099 and make it a W-2, get back with me. I know some resources in that regard. So you can definitely leverage loans and stuff like that. COVID flank tactic number 5, redo your W-9 2019 form. About 70 to 80% of Americans get too much taxes taken out. Even before the stimulus is coming in and you're relying on that and they're coming back in July and everything else, why not bring most of your revenue home? Most people claim 0. Typically, I did that myself until I got out of the service, and I didn't realize at the time before it was the new W-9 2019, I claimed 13 exemptions. Most people thought I was nuts. They're like, IRS is going to get you back. You're going to owe money, all these other things. If you're earning under $60,000 to $100,000, especially as a married military veteran first responder, most of the time, if you have a bunch of kids and you follow your W-9 2019, which now it's based on money value, so it's roughly $2,000 per kid. So you would say, hey, if you have 4 kids like me, $8,000 of taxable income is then taken off. I've never had a bad return. Pre doing that form, I got $15,000. Post, I get about $4,000 to $8,000. But the thing is now my take-home pay went from 70% to being between 85 and 90%. I can't quote you the exact amount. I'm just quoting for myself. But if you wanted to bring the max amount of money back, especially with this COVID flank, take that tactic. Go re-update your W-9 2019. If you need advice from a CPA, my friend Brandon Cox or Alicia Dar is a good resource to go over and do. Again, I'm not a tax master guru, but I've done it personally for myself. So any tax advice, please go to a CPA or proper people. But that would be my recommendation to you, is go look at the W-9 2019 form, learn it, go and fill it out. As long as you follow the instructions and you're honest, you're going to go and get revenue back. And you're going to realize how much money was taken out that you could have had. So the next one, COVID flank tack number 6, is build a small virtual online homeschool. So you're struggling, your school is not working well or not, and your boardroom's overwhelmed, your kids are not staying focused and everything else. Why not go and connect on one of those Facebook groups that are homeschooling and see if you can do a small virtual online homeschool? What does that mean? Maybe you have tactics in math. Maybe your spouse has tax and science, but you don't have the rest of the gamut and whatnot, and you're having difficulty. To go over and save yourself some revenue, see if you can connect with some people and see what homeschoolers are doing, and maybe someone can go over and your kids can log on a Zoom, and someone's teaching science, someone's teaching English, someone's teaching geography, or whatever subject that you need to go have covered. And now maybe you can build a little cohort to go over, instead of you having to quote unquote facilitate 7 hours a day, depending on what your school system goes over and does. Now you can work at home and just do vector checks with the kids and say, hey, your English class is scheduled for this, your math class is scheduled for this, and that type of thing. I'm going to go lead this particular class on this particular day. And then you go over and maybe build that homeschool if that's what you wanted to do, because the school can't provide full resources. You can go over and do that. It takes a little bit of work, of course, to go over and develop those relationships, but we don't know how long we're going to be here. So a flank's got to be some huge change. When we make a flank as a flight, it's a 90-degree turn. It's a huge pivot. But the thing is that it might be fruitful for you to go over and do that, so your kids are getting the best education. And then you're not getting burnt out from doing things either from the boardroom trying to figure out their schoolroom situation, and maybe it'll be fruitful. A lot of times, a lot of states, you don't have to do that much to get homeschool certified. It's usually like a couple pages in about a week or two. And then you get to choose what curriculum, what people they're connecting with, as long as they're state certified. Again, get back with your state and your Department of Education to figure that out. But some schools are so easy. It's like, hey, as long as you pass the state test, you're good. COVID flank number 7, stick to networking virtually. So we in the boardroom used to go to networking events on a constant basis and whatnot to go over and grow ourselves, especially if our boardroom is more of a business or a growing entrepreneurial business. Well, I don't know how long COVID's going to be. My personal predictions, I could still see it between 18 to 24 months. So why keep pivoting back and readjusting your schedule, going to in-phase, potential risk, back to virtual, back and forth? Why not stick to networking virtually? There's several other groups, BNIs, different groups across Arizona, Delaware, maybe meetups and those nature, and a lot of them are doing it virtually. Why not go over and stick to it as an in general process? Because the people that are in your life in COVID and post COVID should be your most important people that you're willing to get COVID for. That's just my personal take on it. If you meet me face to face and we have a regular relationship habitually, that means you go over and you're probably one of the 12 families that I think is most important. And if I caught COVID, I'm willing to do that for you. Then my next model is 70, which are those people that might have occasional access to me in that particular regard because I work with them so regularly. And then I have my 5,000 or more. Those are the people that are watching us right now that feel they're connected because they have a relationship, that we might have a Q&A here and there, but they're not going to connect with me in depth, and I'm not willing to go over and risk COVID. Not means I don't go over and love you. It's just a different level of love. So my recommendation is that we are flanking with COVID, go over and maybe stick to networking virtually. Tactic number 8, maybe online school can help. And I'm talking about this more for you or for me than the kids, because it depends on the state. So you might be in this season that you might have educational debt and all these other things and these other debts. And this is more to the veterans more than anything else. Veterans and military that have post 9/11 or GI Bill benefits. And you're already struggling as is, and you need to bring in some additional revenue. So don't forget, your post 9/11 or forever GI Bill can go over and bring in revenue and maybe increase your potential long-term boardroom money. And those higher end jobs can pivot to virtual a lot easier than the lower end jobs. You work in a warehouse, which I've done before, very hard to go over and make virtual. You are the administrator of the warehouse and you got the degrees to go and go for it. Then you can take that online school, get your diplomas and certificates, and increase your boardroom situation. And then you could actually stay home. And when you do the post 9/11 GI Bill or the forever GI Bill, you're getting a housing allowance. So, as long as you're doing half time, you'll go over and get half what the state tuition is. If you do an online school, which a lot of the schools are converted online, you'll get about $600 to $800 a month. And then you can freeze student loans if you have them in the past and those types of things. So you could at least get some money in your pocket, increase your education, maybe access FAFSA at the same time, which then if you already have your forever GI Bill paying, then that FAFSA money can then help you stem wounds and other things. Because as long as it's taking care of home ops, it's legit. Now, obviously, buying yourself an 80-inch screen TV, that's not legit. They could always audit you, but it's very rare. So maybe online school can go help you increase your fiscal portfolio so then you can change your boardroom to a boardroom that can go virtual in the long term. All right. COVID flank tactic number 9. Have you thought of a GS, a WG, or a NAF job? In this particular world, I only recommend this if you have a job that's, not contiguous in that particular regard, or you're looking for longevity. So I'm a GS employee right now, which is a general service employee. The WG is a wage grade. The NAF is a non-appropriate funds. These jobs now, especially with President Trump's new initiative, going over and it's kind of waived the education. And the cool thing is once you get hired, because of COVID, they have to shift and adjust to you. So you still get your holidays off, your paid days off. If they have to go back, you get automatically telework. So then you can go and be safe. If you don't have the adequate child care, because of COVID, they can go over and still keep you on telework as the phase is going. It's situational because of this. And plus, it brings stability every 2 weeks as long as you're going over and doing the work. Consistent pay. You don't have to worry about, hey, COVID kicked in or this kicked in or that kicked in. Most of the time, unless it's a government freeze of funds, those typically go over and last. So they've had their seasons and they've gone over and make up. You can have your opinion about it. But again, this is just a tactic. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, it's just another thing to put in your quiver. So they're still applying for jobs. And now that they're waiving the education, if you have the experience in your prior military or prior federal or whatever in those positions, it's going to be a lot easier to go and apply for those jobs. And there's not as many applicants. The average applicants in a civilian job boardroom compared to a military or government job boardroom is 2,000. It's like 1 to 2,000. Usually the candidates that go through the jobs are probably in the hundreds. Even certain higher end jobs, they stop at 100 applicants. So, and you always know where you sit. They'll tell you like, hey, you didn't go over and make it. Hey, you went over to the interview. Hey, you'll know the steps where it's at. It takes a bit. The NAF jobs are the fastest. The WG, the wage grades, are the second fastest. The WS, in my experience, are the slowest. But you'll know where you sit at. And then if you come to that, then once you have a year, then you keep that GS. And let's say you just did it for a year or two for the flank, you can then hold that position and come back in future. And then you can walk yourself into other positions that might be really exciting for you that you maybe realize I was never available. So just a thought. Tactic number 10, start a podcast. Again, another crazy idea, isn't it? But guess what? You might have a lot of expert knowledge and wisdom that you've been passing on for years. And this can go over and transition you eventually from going over and doing a physical boardroom to a virtual boardroom. So as of right now, I'm in a beta test with a company called Podopolo, and you'll see this on Podopolo as of next week. You can gamify your podcast, and there's actually investors that are putting money into podcasting right now, and they give a 20% revenue kickback to the podcasters. So you can make some side hustle money, and eventually as you go over and grow, it can take over your income because then people go look for you. So starting a podcast doesn't cost that much. There's a beta that's still open. It's going to be a 3-month beta for Podopolo. And again, if you're not a fan of Podopolo, that's fine. We love you anyway, even though you're watching on us. That's great. But you can go over and start that podcast on Podopolo. And it's the only resource that I know that's available that actually pays you revenue from the people that go over and do the ads on the front end, the back end, or sometimes in between, depending on how the podcast is recorded. They also gamify it. So then the people that go on Podopolo, that are the users, can get free rewards and gifts and things of that nature. It's a fantastic thing. So go check out Podopolo, Podopolo, if you're not watching it on the app. If you're obviously watching it on the app, just jump back out and go to the website to get more details on how to go join the beta test. It's going to be closing soon. So if you're watching this more than a month out, it's already closed. But if you're watching this recent from today until about a month from now, you'll get a chance there. And if you're not, directly connect with me and I can help you go over and get plugged in. All right. COVID flank tactic number 11, create a need product in your business. So your boardroom might be a service entity, and services tend to fade faster than needs. So maybe something to go over and think about as a flank is maybe you can create a needs product that's in there. So maybe it's a commodity, maybe it's a food product, maybe it's something that COVID specific that you get generate an idea and it goes over and does that. What happens is each time these economy goes over and goes down, we tend to go over and focus less on our wants and our desires, and we focus on our needs. So as you're going over and struggling in the boardroom, maybe you can either do this either through a small business that creates needs like Mel and Luca. Mel and Luca is shopping for like basic needs, toilet paper, shampoo, those types of things. 90 to 95% of those people that use Mel and Luca products stick with them and they continually shop. So maybe you need to create a needs product in your business. It might not be directly in your boardroom business, but maybe as a side business in that particular regard, because needs tend to stick. Wants tend to go. Wants are up when the economy's up. Needs go up when the economy is down. So maybe you need to go over and say, maybe the flank that I need to make is create a needs product in my business. And you're probably saying to yourself, well, what do I go over and do? I mean, that particular regard, what if that doesn't go in line with the business? Then create another side business, or, keep it as a separate thing. And then the audience that you market to, you're this person, and the audience you market to is this person. So I know a lot of people in the network marketing tend to go over and do that. In the real meetings, they'll do multiple things. But my piece of advice is, if you have more than one business and then you're networking either virtually or in person, be the person, one person within that group. And then if you go to another group, then be that person to that group. Don't mix them up unless you know the person well. Because if you're doing a needs business and a wants business and they contradict, they're going to be confused in the mind, and they do nothing. Nothing. So might be a pivot to go over and think about. A flank. COVID flank tactic number 12, reevaluate your NWD list. Now, what is that? We just created this in our house maybe about 6 to 12 months ago. Is a needs, wants, desire list. Most of the time, we might write a budget, we might not write a budget, those types of things. To go over and keep boardroom success the most is we have to know how our living room and bedroom ops is going. So we maybe need to reevaluate, what are our needs, what are our wants, and what are our desires, so we know and we can rack and stack. So as the boardroom goes over, maybe decreases funds, or you're going over and connected into other things, you at least can say, both succinctly, husband and wife, or whatever couples that are living together, whatever the model is, that you go over and know what you're spending on. So then you can maximize your boardroom funds, so you minimize your boardroom stress. Because when you're low on funds coming from the boardroom, things get stressful back in the living room and get back in there. And then you're worrying about where to go. So maybe reevaluate your needs, wants, and desire list so you can maximize your time, so you're most effective in the boardroom. COVID flank tactic number 13 is look for trending COVID jobs. As things gone over and changed and pivoted, now we're flanking. Masks are probably going to be here to stay. You can probably make some money go over and doing that. Contactless delivery is going to be here to stay. Any logistical stuff that you can minimize contact with people or decontaminating things, those companies are here to stay. Go back to my Facebook wall a couple of days ago to look at all the list of jobs that are trending, and maybe your particular boardroom, if it's going on hiatus or it gets laid off or whatever, if you maybe go into the trending COVID jobs for a bit, you at least have some boardroom money that comes in on a regular basis, and you can follow that trend. It takes some work. I know passion jobs are what we truly should be getting towards. But when it comes into a season of a flank, you need to go over and think really outside the box. And I mean truly outside the box. I mean, actually, this side out of the box, so my arms can't be seen type thing. It's a little scary, but the thing is that I've already pivoted 70 times. So I know it's easy for me, but I'm just trying to encourage you to go over and to start thinking those things through. You don't want to wait until the boardroom makes you do that flank. It's best to go over and do the flank when you're prepared. A couple more. All right, COVID flank tactic number 14, develop home skills to cut expenses. So again, we go over and focus on the day, and what happens is that typically in the boardroom, we tend to eat out more. Even if it's contactless delivery, we might go over and do those types of things, or maybe we buy things out of convenience because it saves time and whatnot. Well, we're already having probably to spend more money with the new ops of what COVID's gone over and shipped us, masks and all other things and whatnot. Maybe going over and developing those home skills. Go back on YouTube and go watch a cooking show. Maybe it's sewing, maybe it's knitting, maybe it's those types of things. And you realize, wow, I didn't realize that. And that could even shift to a business. I know a lady that's in my unit that does a side business going over and creating masks. They're feminine, beautiful masks, really comfortable. And she goes over and now she gets regular orders to go over and do that. So she learned a home skill for herself, and then she was able to she put it on Facebook, and people were like, wow, I'd like to have some. And she got so many orders that she built a small little business, because now it's a home skill. We as a nation haven't used those too often, but we can take those home skills of cooking and those types of things, and then you can actually leverage it. if you cook amazing meals and people are wanting to learn off you, you can build your own YouTube channel. And over time, then you can get that monetized, and that could replace your boardroom. Now your boardroom comes home, and maybe that's the best boardroom for you. Again, if the boardroom life is for you in person, great. But the thing is that sometimes some people's boardrooms go away. So something to go over and to think about. And now our last one. COVID flank tactic number 15. Network and stay connected to resources, friends, and family while keeping an ear and mind open. What I mean by that is that opportunities sometimes open in chaos. 2008, economy crashed, housing market crashed. Several people bought houses low because they had the revenue. And then when the economy came up, they were making lots of money. Uber came out of those things, and YouTube came out before the crisis and whatnot. Video games skyrocketed immensely after 2001 and 2008, several different things, the app world and whatnot. There's going to be a lot of pivots. Technology is going to change. How we relate and communicate is going to change. How we connect is going to change. The information digital age is going to get to the next level, virtual reality, those types of things. Stay networked and stay connected with resources, friends, and family, because your family might hear resources. Your friends might hear resources. And also during this period, if you stay connected during that time, it's going to be easier to go over and integrate back. Because the more we shirk back when these things go over and happen, it's harder to get up and going. I know that this was supposed to be a boardroom episode, but it's a totality of all three rooms, because when the boardroom goes away, living room gets harder and bedroom life gets harder and all those types of things. So if we start building our tactics in the boardroom, where at least we have somewhat of a sane brain, because when we sometimes get back to the living room and the bedroom, it can get a little chaotic. If you start planning there, then those three rooms can appease and be much easier for you. So that is our list, and it's not over. We're going to stop in a few minutes, but it's not over for you guys. So superhero challenge of the day. I know it's been a little long today. Have you implemented a COVID flank tactic for your boardroom situation? If you have, we'd love to hear it and share your thoughts on the social media or Pedopolo. So wherever you're listening to this, either Facebook, YouTube, the Easy Way wall, or going over and you're watching this in replay on Pedopolo or maybe back on the stream, we'd love to hear your comments on there if you all went over and implemented any COVID flank tactics. Because we're not the subject matter experts of everything. We are the catalyst to get you to go over and to think, to have you thrive from the bedroom to the boardroom. So we hope this goes over and serves you. Again, if you're struggling within the bedroom, living room, boardroom, we always give 20 minutes free to every military veteran first responder. We will soon have a Calendly. You can go to our Facebook page and go over and book. And if you want to take your war hero to superhero transformation to the next level, you see at the bottom of there, we have our Patreon. So you go to patreon.com/thrive-not-survive for as low as $5 a month to help you go over and your marriage thrive. And as you go over and thrive more fiscally in the boardroom way with our tactics, you can up your superhero game to the next level. So that's it for all. Again, this is always a dialogue, never a monologue. We always check our regular updates. So if you add to this story, we'd love to go over and re-engage back. So please go over and connect with us in one of our social media realms. Connect with us on the Easy Way wall or in Pedopolo, so wherever you're at. And don't miss out on Wednesday. We have a fantastic show on Wednesday about freedom in the boardroom, on really how to go over and to thrive. So check us out Wednesday at 7:30 on the Easy Way or your favorite social media near you. All right. Thanks, guys. You all have a great day.